fermenting now for about 10 years, close to 10 years. It just started as I read an article about sauerkraut being good for you, and then suddenly something else happens, and now I'm fermenting. I mean, I do it as part of my daily routine. So whether that be sourdough bread or the kefir, I don't even think about, you know. But I've always got sauerkraut going. I'm making kimchi. I'm fermenting other vegetables. I make yogurt certainly every week. I make a gallon of yogurt a week. We eat it that much. It's a part of my life, and I really believe that other people should be doing it because it is simple, it is cheap. Mark, I didn't see it. Hi. I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but it's not. Once you get in the habit and the swing, and it's the same with your kombucha, it's just getting into a rhythm. And so, water kefir, you change out the water well, I do something with it every day, but it's just 2 minutes, and you know, 3 days later you've got a quart of fizzy sweet drink, basically. But sauerkraut is a 6-week project. I have, you can read books and say you can make sauerkraut in a week. I don't believe that you can salt cabbage in a week. I have a good friend of mine actually who makes some really interesting stuff, and I'm going to talk about that later, but basically he said, yeah, this is ready in a week. Well, I tasted it, did what he did, and I tasted it in a week, and I use onions in a week. Those onions are still pretty sharp, you know. Now in 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, they're blended in. It's just like a good chili, you know. It's great when you first eat it, but the next day it's even better. So so basically I want everybody to be fermenting something, and that could be anything. But it's just getting it into your gut to help your bacteria. So let me tell you what we're going to do today. The thing about sauerkraut is you have to add cabbage to salt, and it's basically the simplest form, and that draws out liquid, and then we're going to put it, essentially we're going to put it in a container, compress it, and leave it. But I'm going to teach how I make sauerkraut. And I do it about every 6 or 8 weeks. So, which has just been incredibly reliable. And I use a little more than just cabbage. So here's one shredded apple. We just shredded that. So I'm going to go through and add things to this and start mixing it up, because I want salt to draw the liquid out. So this is half of one cabbage. The other half is here. And I'm going to go through the chopping process in a little. So half a cabbage. So this is my finished product. I like the pink colour, and I believe it must add something. Right? So I've just done it that way because my grandmother made sauerkraut. Until I came to the States, I thought sauerkraut was red. You know, because she always used red cabbage. So that's how I make it. So I'm going to. You don't have to use that, but you don't have to do anything I'm doing. But it's the principle. Okay, I didn't. So when I wash it, obviously I clean the cabbage, take off a couple of the dirty leaves, and then I save some good leaves. We're going to use these later, because when we put it in the jar, we're going to have lots and lots of little bits in here. And guess what? They're going to float to the surface. We don't want things on the surface. So we use this to hold it down. So half of a red cabbage. And I was afraid, I always think that these big bowls are going to be big enough, because this and a lot of this is all going to get in here. And, so now the thing is salt. I'm using this salt, but I want to add the salt, and I'm going to add another half a cabbage to this, and I'm just going to chop one half. And so I'm going to put all the salt in now, and I basically use 1 tablespoon of salt, and I'm going to have a handout for this. Well, it's a little more than one, but 1 tablespoon per head of cabbage. But obviously it's a big head, you know, I might be more generous than a small one. So the idea here is this needs to work on the cabbage. I could have done this before I left because I want this to be working for, because you can see it's pretty dry right now. By the time we put it in that jar, I want this to be totally wet. And, so I've got apple, all right, and then I've got 2 other ingredients. I use onions and everything. Usually garlic and ginger and turmeric as well, but
you say garlic, ginger, and turmeric?
Yes. I actually have a shaker thing I fill up with ground garlic, ground ginger, ground turmeric, and ground pepper. And that's what I use on everything. I use it on salmon, I'll use it, you know, if I grill a piece of salmon, that's my rub, and a little bit of oil. But I don't, I mean I could put it in here. So now I've added onion. That was 1 medium onion. And for the amount here, my proportions are typically about half an onion or half. I use about the same amount of onion, carrot, and apple, which is about a half per cabbage, roughly. And you don't have to use those. You can add other things. You can add any kind of root vegetable. I've got a little bit of carrot. Now, why am I adding root vegetables? When I first did this, I think, well, apples, they would be good because they make cider, and therefore they're going to have the yeasts and things, so it just seemed like it would be a good thing to add. And, you know, I'd read, you know, these were my 2 books that I learned everything from, to be honest. I mean I've gone to classes with this guy, but Sandor Katz, is familiar with Sandor Katz? Yeah. And I just read this one, and then I read this one, and then I just throw it all together my way. And that's just how I cook. So anyway, I just added carrots. I thought, for the colour. I had no idea that this was going to turn into this, right, when I first made it. But, so what I'm going to do is add 1 more half of this, and I'm going to go through the cutting process because it's, you know, just so you can see what I do there. And once I've done that, we're going to have a little taste of this. And then we're going to make something else. And then we're going to taste that. Anyway, it'll work out. But the idea is I want you to taste what it is in its simple form. All right. Then we're going to make a sauerkraut salad, and this is, you might say, my party piece. When I go somewhere, taking simple sauerkraut, people wouldn't really want to know what to do with it. But when it's called, well, you know, everyone thinks it goes with, you know, a hot dog or something, you know, and I would never dream of heating my sauerkraut. You can now, if you ever thought of putting in mashed potato, you don't have to heat it. You've made your mashed potato, just mix it in. It's just adds a nice touch to it. Yeah, and I have it as a salad side item on my salads, often the largest item on my plate. And I will put, these are some of the options we've got here, somewhere over here. Blue cheese crumbles, olive oil, and parsley. I usually run in the garden, pick some parsley, chop up, put it in there, and that to me is the best. I mean, I used to eat blue cheese dressing. Now I just have olive oil and blue cheese crumble. Okay, so now you can add all kinds of spices to this. So the one that's probably the standard one is caraway seeds. So you measure out an exact amount of that. And I've been growing these multicolored peppers. I don't know. I put some of the seeds from. anyway, I ground them up, seeds and all. This is hot, hot stuff. So I'm going to add a little bit to this because it's like kimchi. Kimchi is amazing how much heat you can add to it. You think, oh, there's no way I could eat that, and it's not very hot. And actually, I have some kimchi down here that we can taste a little later. And you know, it's okay, it's a little. It's not really hot at all, you know. And you think of kimchi as being really burning hot, and how much are they going to put in? That is a really hot stuff. And I've never put that in. But good additions, and I would stick with the simple one first. But things like daikon radish, you know, long white radish, turnips, you just chop them up, shred them up. Sandal cats would even put them in whole. You'll take a daikon radish. We made a barrel, okay, 52-gallon barrel. So we got it full of sauerkraut, and then we start adding whole turnips, and these were to drive in to increase the compression in there, because compression is a big part of sauerkraut. It's not so much a part of most other ferments. So have I done everything in here? Because I want to give this as much time to get all them down now. So, okay. So I want to go through the chopping. Obviously, the first thing to do is slice it down the middle. But so everything is going in here. The core has got sugars in it, so that's going to feed those yeast. So we want that. We want that as fine as we can get it. So what I'm going to do is slice all the leaves off around the outside, leave it with the core, and then I'm going to grate it, or I'll chop it finely and add that to it and mix it all in. And then we'll have basically done the prep work at that point. So it really didn't take that long, right? But you know, I'd already sliced the onions. And, So I always go off. There's my core, spacing that way. So I'll start slicing like so that I'm leaving the triangle shape, if you like. So this big knives help. So really, try and do this with a paring knife. And actually, the knife I use at home is a 10-inch chef's knife, and it's my favourite. So I try to get the first slice thin. I didn't know about the existence of these until I went to a Viking cooking class. And it's like, how would I ever live without it? So, if anyone has any questions, feel free.
So when you only put the 2 tablespoons of salt in there, how does that affect the flavor? Or is it just to pull it?
Okay. Good question. It made me think of a lot of other things. Salt. Why do we put salt in it? If we just mix this up and put it on the side, if we're lucky, something nice might happen, but more often than not, it's going to go moldy and rancid, and it's going to be pretty unpleasant. So, and that's because there's these different bacteria. We have good bacteria and bad bacteria. And it just so happens that the good bacteria can survive salt and the bad bacteria can't. I mean, so basically you've got a little war going on here. I mean, this little war is going on inside our bodies everywhere, you know, one good bacteria, bad bacteria. So basically, what we're trying to do is just help the good bacteria. And we do that with the salt. That's now, you can make salt free, and I wouldn't think very reliable. That's probably the biggest one. But I'm going to go through, there are several things you're going to do. But one is, a certain amount of salt. You don't want too much, otherwise it won't even start to ferment. And everyone came over and said, I want you to try this. He said it was so salty. I mean, it was just, and he's had it there 6 weeks, but it was still just salted cabbage. So you don't really want to put in too much.
Does the sodium content of the salt have any bearing on your outcome? Can you use low sodium?
I would always, if sodium is a concern, I would go with a quality Himalayan salt or a good quality salt. The sodium content in processed salts is, you've got another thing here, is about 99.9%. It's sodium chloride. And in a sea salt, or a quality sea salt, which has not been processed, it's like 74%. So what's the other 26%? That's all nutrients and minerals, and that's what you want. So I've actually decided to do that. It costs a lot more to do it, but really when you think 2 or 3 tablespoons, it's not, at that time, anyway, but I'm going to use this up first. I'm not, and unfortunately I've got another one at home as well. But where you do get to use a lot of salt is when you use vegetables, when you ferment vegetables. And I love fermented cauliflower and asparagus. I grow asparagus. My cauliflower, I think the caterpillars get more of it. Well, they get all of it, I don't get any. But the, yeah, so asparagus I grow, and when it comes in March it starts, and in April I start getting a lot. And I am now picking every day, and the stalk's this big, you think, oh, that can't be good, and it's good all the way down. Now when they get this big, which they do if you go away for 3 days, they grow up 8 inches a day is how much that can grow in the right conditions. So yeah, I've gone away for a week, and you know, it's okay, it's up here now. The bottom third or half of that is tough, but it still makes good soup. Never throw it away. So when you're doing vegetables, I was talking about salt, then what you're doing is you're soaking the vegetables in brine. So there's no compression. You're literally just putting the vegetables in brine, and they will ferment. So you use a lot more salt that way, and that's actually why I bought these, because I was doing a lot of brining. And brining a turkey, which we did in the last couple of years, is a great way to prepare it for cooking. All right. Now we have to get this as fine as possible. You can chop it, I mean, that's fine. But I just try to, this is where you slice your things. Once you get the right rhythm, okay. So, for really brining vegetables, really is you use a certain brine and the strength of that brine. So when you're making brine, you would put 3 tablespoons per quart, and then you can basically just put vegetables in it, and spices as well, and I would typically always add spices to it. And then after a month, then it will start to ferment, sometimes next day, sometimes longer, but I would leave it out for a month typically, and then put it in the fridge. And, you can really taste it any time.
And do you have to have like the water all the way to the top, or can they be floating?
No, okay. that was one of the points I was going to get to in a bit, but that just brings talk about it. You never ever want anything poking out of the liquid. Everything has to be submerged in liquid. The hardener rule. It will definitely get mold on the top. That can be fine. You can scrape it off and keep going. But it's when you start getting the nasty stuff on top. But if it's poking up, you're more likely to get that. So one of the things is, okay, I've got it in my jar. How do you protect that jar? So how do you protect it from exterior organisms? I mean, you can't protect it from everything because you just load it in there, and, you know. But how do you do it? Because in 6 weeks, it has the potential for, you know, if you just left it open, and you can't screw it down tight because it needs to release oxygen. And if you don't do it too tight, it will release it, and then it wants to suck it in again when the temperature in the room changes. And all my fermenting is just on the counter in the kitchen. Okay.
Does light have an impact?
I would not put it in direct sunlight at all. It's actually an interesting point because that I have noticed sometimes when I do it, I have a big crock, and that's a stoneware crock, so you don't get any light inside.
Right.
But when you do it in a jar, I find very often the top half-inch looks a little different colour. And I just mix it in, but I don't know. I don't know whether it's like that inside a stoneware jar. So,
but you haven't noticed if it's on the counter and it's not covered, it's just getting like a little, you know, ambient light from a nearby window or something like that.
No, actually mine. If that was the window, my stuff is typically about here. It doesn't get direct light, but and I don't cover it. I just like what I do is, particularly with vegetables. Is you put it in a tray because you'll think, oh, it's not doing anything. You go in there the next day and it's overflowed, and you've got, you know, juices running down the side into the counter, into the drawer underneath, down the side. You know, it's yeah, and you think, oh, well, it's still not doing anything. Where did that come from? You know. Yeah, so always put it in something where the juice is. So essentially, this is now ready. It's the salt. I would always leave it out once it's mixed for half an hour. So that is ready to go into that jar. So yeah, all of this in that jar, no problem. So now we're going to move on.